everyone around you is like stressing about homeschool, and you're like, my kid is 3 or younger, or maybe has a developmental delay and is like they're 3 or younger, and you're like, for me, homeschool doesn't even cut it. But you don't want this time to go to waste. You're willing to do whatever it takes for your kid, but you don't have the training. You've come to the right place. My name is Julie Meyer, and I happen to know that you as a parent have powers far greater than any of us therapists or educators can ever have. Keep watching. What we're going to do is, and like I was talking about, like a little human Ouija board, reducing distractions. We're going to go ahead and set up our area like this, and maybe close the door, let the rest of the family do something quietly, maybe put on a screen for them in the other room so that they don't come in and disturb the child that you're working with. If you have a few young children at home, you could set it up, wash everything down and set it up again. You might see some wet spots on the carpet. I had my husband come down here and help me spray everything. It's my first time taking everything out of the car in the last week, since we have been in our current version of quarantine. So I'm going to set the child down, and we're just going to sit back and relax and look at our sheet here and watch them. And that's it. We're not going to try and make them do anything. We're not going to be checking boxes or scoring anything. For a while, maybe even don't look at the sheet. Just watch what they do. So some children might be most interested in the blocks, and they'll come and push it towards us. Or if you have fewer blocks and they're in a Ziploc bag, they might pick it up and hand it to you and open it. And if they're just looking at it, and that's the most they do with any of these particular toys, they just pick it up and look at it, that would be E1. That would be exploratory play level 1. And if you give them about 10 minutes, and if that's all they do, then we know that's information. If they start using both hands and like exploring it with their senses, like banging it together, or shaking it, or mouthing it, or licking it, or smelling it, that is already exploratory play level 2. That's giving us some information. It's telling us what we're going to do with that child at this point to help them move forward. Now, if they take one toy and find for 1 or 2 or 3 different ways to play with it, that's exploratory play level 3. And that could be with any of these toys. With many of these things, they could also combine toys from different areas to represent different levels of development. I'm going to run through this real quickly. Now, the reason that we're going on to relational play, and we have what we saw as like kind of the top or the middle of our circle. I'm pointing over to my left. We had for that the Mr. Potato Head. We had for that the simple puzzle. Now I had a face puzzle, but you might have some other sort of simple, like chunky puzzle. Like a lot of Melissa and Doug has wonderful puzzles like this that of different scenes of maybe animals or vehicles or buildings that they maybe just have like 4 to 8 pieces that they like put the big chunky pieces into the puzzles. That you could use that kind of puzzle there. Or we have the shape sorter, and you might want to have one of the Mr. Potato Heads put together to see if your child knows how to take it apart. Now, if the issue is that you see, and some of these are judgment calls, if you see that they know what to do, but their hands might not have the strength to take it apart, I think that you could still count that as an R1, relational play level 1. If they put these things that have a certain, so we're looking at relational play. That's the teal column, the second one from the left. And the advantage of the toys here is that the child could put them together in specific ways. If you see them trying but not quite doing it, I would say that it's maybe, R1.5 or something like that. It's kind of between R1 and R2. But that's something that we could work on with them, helping them to put things together and take things apart at that stage. And you see that here I have 3 different toys that are developmentally appropriate for the children that I work with. And if I were to see that they were able to meaningfully put these together, then that would tell me that they are solid in R3. So for example, if during the time that I'm watching them, they take a Mr. Potato Head, and they don't have to do the entire thing. They put on the feet, they put the eyes in the right place. If it's not in the right place, we could see that, okay, they're going in that direction, but maybe that's something that they need to work on. And maybe an ear. We see if this is their level of play, this also gives us some clues about what kind of vocabulary we could be working on with them. If this is where they are at this level of development when we're doing this assessment today, or when we get around to it, then that could tell us that maybe what we're working on is body parts, or parts of the face. Maybe some games that we could play with them are saying head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So if they put a few of the pieces in the right order, but then maybe get distracted, move on to, close this. This next toy, and they start putting some of these pieces where they really belong. I have a few. Here. Here we go. Let me find the top of this little girl's head. A few here. I'm going to bring this over to the camera so. Oh. You see that this face is, at least some of the pieces are in order. Or if they're very interested in getting it very right and filling in the whole puzzle and completing the face. Okay. Show the complete face. All the pieces. It tells us that they know how to put things in a certain order. That tells us that they know how to put things in a certain order. Another thing that you might more likely have at home, a lot of families have this, is the shape sorter. Now, if you do see a lot of kids, we all like to do we like to do what we feel confident with and what's easy for us. I'm like that too. But of course, the challenge is where the growth happens. If you see the child picks up this toy and they get rid of the lid and throw it away, and they just like go like this and take it out, that's good. But if they're already interested in this toy, you could just intervene a little bit, not saying put this here, but maybe just hold this in front of them like this, hold the lid on, and hand them the shapes to see if they will try and put them in the right place. And if they're interested in trying, again, that tells us that's a good next level in their cognitive development and their brain development to be working on at this point. If they get them all right, they might go ahead and move on to the next level. I'm going to go ahead and put this away. And some kids who are just learning to do this, they could do this for a very long time because it's very exciting to be able to reach that next level. Let me go ahead and close this. Put this away. Okay, so functional play might be, I don't have anything here right now, but you could have something. If there is something that they could push a button to turn it on, maybe have it there for a little while. Or if it's something that you know that they're very interested in, but they might get fixated on and then get upset if you take it away. You could just keep in mind that they do have that ability to push buttons to turn things on. We also want to make sure that we're not sending them down a rabbit hole that we're not going to be able to get them out of. So that could just be a mental note, or if there is something that they could just push a button a little bit, then you could kind of sneak it away so that they can be able to explore the other toys. That we could do for the beginning of functional play. Now we have these items for symbolic play, and I'm going to talk to you once we've gone through generally this whole list, what the flow of this is and what this tells us about what's happening in the mind of your child, even if they can't verbally tell you yet. So these are things with limbs and faces, things that are a little bit like us. And what we would love to see, it's kind of like when I have my children arriving or approaching this point, it's very exciting because a lot of times this is where meaningful language comes in, and this is where meaningful communication comes in. And we're going to be getting to these in just a second, but we do have here playing with toys in simple pretend ways directed towards themselves. So if they might, these days especially, they might like pretend to dry their hands. You know, we're doing a lot of hand washing these days. They might, we have these medical things, they might come over and hit their own knee. I don't think doctors do that so much anymore. I think my doctor used to do that when I was a pediatrician. I haven't seen my children's doctor do that so much anymore. But also, like if you have a stethoscope and they like start to listen to their own heartbeat, this could be the second level of functional play. And if they start doing that to these sorts of things, or we also have, just going back a little bit, we also have like a cup and a spoon. If they start pretending to drink, or pretending to give the doll or the stuffed animal a drink, or to pretend to feed themselves with a spoon, or pretend to feed the stuffed animal or the dolly with a spoon, that can give us an idea of where they are developmentally. That would be more like the functional 2 level. And they start to incorporate other people and other animals and start creating more elaborate scenarios. That's an even higher level. Now, then when we're moving into symbolic, I'm going to leave these things actually. When we're getting into the symbolic level, if they start to make the dolly move, and maybe hand the dolly a spoon to feed himself, and do things as if the dolly were alive. If he's having the dolly to wash his own face or to wash his hands, that's an even higher level. Now, if he starts to do, again, this is without our interference. This is, or maybe we might hand him things and then sit back, but we're not saying, do this. Not what we can get him to do, but what he does on his own, he or she does on their own. Now, this is a very exciting level as we get deeper into symbolic play. We were talking earlier about how sometimes toys from one area of the circle can be used for a different level of development, even though this like semicircle is supposed to roughly symbolize to represent the flow of development that we have on the chart here. So, for example, we could use this higher level symbolic doll, but if he's mouthing it or banging it or like licking it, that's using like the symbolic toy, but in an exploratory kind of way. So that's something to keep in mind. But from the opposite end, once you've opened it, and I know some people like things to be neat and organized, and that's something that we could have before and after this, but once he has requested it, to be open, and we've helped him to open it, and we've left this open. Or if not, we could kind of introduce this if he's engaged in maybe a little tea time, or brushing teeth and a little bit of a bath, or whatever pretend play scenario he or she is engaged in. We could have some blocks. We could put some blocks there and see if they take a non-symbolic item and do something symbolic with it. So for example, let me get a piece of pizza. One level, a very good level, is if they see this pizza and they pretend to eat it themselves, or they pretend to give it to the doll, or the next level, like we talked about, would be to have the doll pretend to feed himself, or the doll could feed the cat. So they're starting to engage with each other. Something that would be an even higher level is to start to take these things that do not look like food and pretend to eat them, or pretend to feed it to each other. Or maybe it's a bar of soap now. Or also it shows some flexibility in thinking if we could first eat it and then put it to the side for a second, and now we could wash with it. And unfortunately, something that my children do, I was cleaning up these blocks one day and I saw 2 of them had numbers on them and some buttons, possibly a play button. A lot of children these days will take this block and make it into a smartphone. So, but that is showing using one thing to represent another thing, and using something abstract to represent something familiar, and that is a higher level of. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please click like and share with anybody you think can benefit from it. For more videos like this, please subscribe. To request a video on a topic that we haven't covered yet, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll see that, and if I get enough interest, I'll make a new video. Also, you don't have to do this alone. You could join the discussion in our private Facebook group, and the link is in the comment box down below. Or if you're interested in working with me personally, send me a PM on Facebook and we'll make a time to talk. In the meantime, use your powers and take care.